Donald Trump is now suing another media outlet. This time it's the Des Moines Register, that's the newspaper in Iowa, over that pre-election poll. Remember the one just before the election that showed Trump losing the state to Kamala Harris by a very wide margin. Trump, of course, won Iowa by a very wide margin, more than 13 points. The lawsuit is accusing the Des Moines Register's longtime pollster and the paper itself of brazen election interference. Those are the words they use in the filing. And this is Trump's latest media target in a long list. Just to look at who he's sued just over the past 2 years alone. And of course, there was the settlement where he got $16 million from ABC News this week, which I'm going to ask about in a moment. I want to start, though, with Harvard constitutional law professor Laurence Tribe, nation's preeminent legal expert on the First Amendment, on this issue of where we are, Professor Tribe, with suing the Des Moines Register and that pollster. Is there any legal basis for Trump to do this, to sue a pollster and the paper because it showed him losing and was wrong?
No, there's no legal basis at all. He claims it was election interference, but if anything, when Ann Seltzer, who is a terrific pollster, mistakenly said that it looked like Harris was pulling ahead, and that's what her polls showed. If anything, that hurt Harris because it may have led people to be overconfident. It certainly didn't hurt Trump in any way. There's no basis for a lawsuit. There are no damages. There's certainly no false statement of fact. But that's not the point. The point in the history that you showed with the various suits, including the settlement by ABC for $16 million with a very weak defamation suit that Trump had brought, that whole history shows that the dominoes keep falling. That is, one newspaper or media outlet after another folds in anticipation of being pressed to the wall by a limitless budget that Donald Trump has, backed by all of his financial backers. He can crush people. And his threat to do that has become his mode of lawfare. And the danger is to our whole system. People lose faith in polls, they lose faith in the newspapers, they lose faith in the media. The whole system crumbles.
So let me ask you, because as you point out, this is not about the Des Moines Register, right? It's much bigger than that. And in fact, Trump has made very clear his view of much of the media. Just listen to some of the threats that he's put out there, Professor.
I think CBS should lose its license, but I think ABC should lose its license also because of what they've done. We sued them yesterday for a lot of money. We sued them. And I sued them, and we call it election interference fraud. New York Times is the enemy, and Washington Post is the enemy of the people, too.
All right, so that's just some of it, though. I mean, just on Thursday, Professor, he said this.
We had a great first term, despite a lot of turmoil caused unnecessarily. But the media's tamed down a little bit. They're liking us much better now, I think. If they don't, we'll have to just take them on again, and we don't want to do that.
How dangerous is rhetoric like that in reality?
Incredibly dangerous. It's not just rhetoric. When he says we've tamed the media, what he's really saying is that we call them the enemy of the people, and then we threaten to crush them financially and otherwise, and especially when media outlets are owned by very wealthy corporations or individuals who have a multitude of interests. Jeff Bezos owning all kinds of things in addition to the Washington Post.
Yeah.
Example of that kind. When that happens, then people who want to, go along with those in power are tempted to squelch the media outlets, and freedom of the press is undermined, and that's essential to democracy. So
Professor,
that autocrats this way.
I just wanted to ask you about the ABC case specifically, because they settled that defamation case. They're donating $15 million to his presidential campaign and paying his legal fees for another $1 million. So $16 million, also a public apology coming from ABC. I'm curious, Professor Tribe, what you think the significance of that precedent is that ABC chose to do that.
Well, it was a case that ABC was destined to win because the only thing that Trump could say is that George Stephanopoulos used the word rape somewhat loosely. He used it the same way the judge who had presided over E. Jean Carroll's lawsuit used it. The technical definition of rape is not what was at issue. What was at issue is whether there was deliberate falsehood on the part of ABC and George Stephanopoulos. And they were not able to prove that in any way, shape, or form. They couldn't even prove the damages. What kind of damage to his reputation, given everything that he bragged about what he does to women? There was no damage to his reputation. So it was a weak lawsuit. He was destined to lose it. But rather than basically be on the wrong side of Donald Trump,
Yeah.
Disney, the company that owned ABC, obviously put pressure on ABC to cave. And that sets a terrible precedent because it means that whenever a media outlet is part of a conglomerate, the business interests of the owner can induce that media outlet to silence itself. And when that happens, those who would criticize the leader of government, those who would criticize the president or the government,
Yeah.
are basically chilled. And that is the beginning of the end of democracy.
Professor Tribe, I appreciate your time as always. Thank you, sir.